This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
My, how things have changed in 1 week, Stroz. I told you a week ago that if the Lions beat the Falcons, it's going to kind of feel like screw it mode. You're all in for the win. And not only did they beat the Falcons, but the Lions are buyers, and they've added Everson Griffen for a 6th-round draft pick. I can't actually see your face because your recording equipment is something else. But I imagine.
Hold on. Let me turn on the backlighting here. I do have to get something set up as far as backlighting so you can see my face. I'm using my cell phone right now. Is that any better?
Oh, maybe? There we go. I can see your face now, Stroz.
I'm totally blinded by the flashlight on my phone, by the way.
I can tell you keep trying to barely keep your eyes open. So I like the move. A 6th-round draft pick is nothing. Now, I'll admit, when I heard the trade, there's a part of me nervous because I do believe this is a Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia trying to save their job move. They recognize there's no time to sit around anymore. You know, I believe it was under both of these guys where Golden State got sold at the deadline. They're not going to sell anymore because these guys are fighting for their job. But for a 6th-round draft pick, sitting at 3-3, I'm not going to complain.
So I'm going to be completely honest with you. The moment that Matt Stafford had the ball at the 11-yard line, which should have been the 9-yard line, and he was looking to throw to somebody and it was wide open, me and my girlfriend in unison screamed at the TV, "Run! Run! Just run!" And then he throws the ball and it's a touchdown. And I'll be honest with you, I found myself in an awkward spot because I was yelling at him to run because, score.
You were rooting for him to score.
But
could you not be?
But here's the thing. Once he completed the pass, I was kind of sad. I was like, shit, here we are. We're 500. These guys definitely aren't going anywhere. We're stuck with the same old same. This is bad. They're going to become buyers. And then sure as shit, they were buyers. Went out, grabbed Everson Griffen.
Buying, though, to be fair.
This is my problem with it, though, right? I get that you're giving up a 6th-round draft pick. That could become a 5th-round draft pick. I think if you make the playoffs, I think that's how it's worded, and I think that's what the deal is. My issue is this is a player you could have had in free agency. You didn't have to give up anything to get him if you were Bob Quinn and you did your due diligence and you went out and you grabbed him in free agency. He was sitting there forever. This was a guy that was kind of wishy-washy on whether or not Minnesota was going to get him. He was waiting around for a deal. Minnesota didn't come to him. He then ends up in Dallas. Dallas offers him a nice contract. The whole time, Bob Quinn could have made overtures to him, could have went out, grabbed him, brought him in, could have talked to him. They never even lifted a finger to call this guy or to even bring him in here.
Now, hold on. I need to stop you because there's this fun thing, and you're not alone in this, where people like to be like, oh, we didn't get this player, so we didn't make any efforts. We don't have any idea if Bob Quinn did his due diligence. We have no idea.
But listen, listen. This was a guy who was sitting out there with Jadeveon Clowney forever and a day. You mean to tell me that if somebody offered him a contract, he wasn't going to jump on it? There was thoughts that he might not even get signed this year.
Who's to say the Lions didn't throw him a contract that he thought wasn't enough money? And then, time goes by and you find out, man, I made the wrong choice. That happens all the time in the NFL. Guys think they're worth more than they are, and they end up passing up contracts. It's very possible, and I'm not saying it did happen. I have no information, but you have just as much as me. His contract, what he ended up signing for, there's no way he thought it's like an $8 million deal, I think, and $3 million in bonus. There's no way Everson Griffen thought that was all he was going to get. So, time goes by, and he realizes, you know what, I'm not going to get what I thought. I'll take the best deal I can get. It's not as simple as we didn't sign him, so we must not have wanted him. I understand a little bit of frustration there, but I also think it's worth noting, Stroz. Can you pull up his contract real quick while I talk?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worth noting that there's a difference between saying this guy isn't worth what he's getting paid and looking at it now, because you don't pay any of the bonus, which was a significant percentage of this contract, and you only pay half of the salary. The Lions are going to pay him less than $2 million this year. I don't know the number, but I'm fairly confident it's less than $2 million.
We're going to pull it up right now.
Yeah, no worries. It's not, and if you want to put this off as a little footnote of something that you don't love, okay. I just don't think it can ruin the trade for you.
So it doesn't ruin the trade for me. It just, again, it leaves another sour taste in my mouth regarding Bob Quinn and what Bob Quinn brings to the table. This is a guy that you could have went out and grabbed. Instead, now you're forfeiting draft picks to bring him in here. And yeah, we both agree that this is save your ass time for both Bob Quinn and for Matt Patricia. So this contract, real quick, looking at it, base salary looks like 1.7-ish.
Now? That's the whole year?
Yeah, it's what it says is base salary. So I'm getting these numbers from Spot
the bonus. So the Lions are going to be paying him less than $1 million.
Yes. Yep. The way it works out, yeah.
Is it fair to acknowledge that what he got paid, or even just what he was expecting to get paid, looks nothing like what the Lions are now paying him? You know, they might have said he's not worth that salary, but we can eat $1 million in a 6th round draft pick.
I mean, I guess if that's the approach you want to take, I understand what you're saying. But my thing is, Bob Quinn, like we both thought going into the season, you and I both, right? I want to rewind this a little bit. You and I both thought going into the season that they were extremely weak along the defensive line. We thought that they needed to add somebody there to help. We thought that they didn't do a good enough job in the draft. We thought that they didn't do a good enough job in free agency, bringing guys in to apply pressure to a quarterback. And now all of a sudden, 6 games into the season, like, oh, hey, we got to make a move because we got to start applying more pressure to the quarterback. Well, yeah, no kidding. You got 2 guys on a podcast telling you this. Like, how did you not see this? And this is a guy who was out there forever and a day when the year started. I mean, me and you both talked about Jadeveon Clowney possibly coming in, and we never thought it was a serious option. I don't think either one of us really wanted him here. But Everson Griffen was a guy that I was like, yeah, you could get him. He's terrorized you for years when he was in Minnesota.
Do you respect the Seattle Seahawks as an organization?
I do.
They just traded for Carlos Dunlap. They were supposedly interested in Everson Griffen, too. Why didn't they sign Everson Griffen?
I think that – so you have to realize, too, that they're dealing with a bunch of injuries. Like, that team has been decimated by injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So they're trading for Carlos Dunlap, and looking at Everson Griffen was more a situation of where they're at now after dealing with injuries.
I don't believe they replaced Jadeveon Clowney, did they? They let him walk, and I don't think they did anything special to replace him.
They didn't do anything special to replace him. But I think that defense was a lot better when the year started before they had multiple key guys go down with injuries. And I think that's now, look, I don't think that defense was going to be what that defense was. That was nowhere near being that Legion of Boom type defense where they were tops in the league. But I think that defense was somewhere in the middle of the pack. I think it was good enough to help you win games. And I thought the way that they thought that they had to build this team was around Russell Wilson. Now, they haven't done a very good job protecting him. I don't think their offensive line is any great shakes, but you give him a couple pieces and this guy just goes out there and what is it? Let Russ cook. So like Russ just goes out there and cooks. You now need to help support him a little bit. So you go out there and you get Carlos Dunlap to help fill in some spots with some guys who went down with injuries. I struggle
with this line of thinking because to me it suggests that like anyone who buys somebody on a 1-year deal is or like specifically was signing free agency. Like it suggests to me like you can't possibly do that and have done your job in the offseason.
No, that's not what I'm saying. They're not mutually exclusive. Like they're not. In this case, this is the situation with this particular case because you could have had him in free agency. The really good teams go into NFL drafts with multiple picks. Yes or no? We talk about the compensatory picks 2 or 3 times leading up into the NFL draft segments of our podcast. So you believe good teams have multiple draft picks, right?
I mean, sure.
Okay. So you just traded away another asset that you could use to build this team for the future. And I understand that you're in win now mode, but good teams have lots of draft picks. So here, I'm going to give you a couple teams, all right? Because I did some research. Random, I know. I'm going to give you some teams that had a lot of draft picks or had the most draft picks in whichever year's NFL draft, and then we can draw a correlation to it because I think there's a bit of an overstatement by me, and I think there's a bit of a statement here with all of this included, okay? So 2020, would we not agree Minnesota's a pretty good football team? Not this year, but the last couple years. Rick Spielman seems to know what he's doing, yes or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Minnesota had the most draft picks in 2020. They also had the most draft picks in 2019. Baltimore, 2018, had the most draft picks. Cincinnati,
this is
not really a good team.
Oversimplification.
Well, we're trying to have a conversation about it. That's all I'm trying to do with you right now.
Let's do the same study with letters in the team mascot. Lions is pretty low. Do good football teams have a lot of letters in their name? More vowels or consonant? Which one's better? Like this is oversimplified. And I'll let you continue. I think you're oversimplifying it.
My point is, good teams like Seattle, Minnesota, Baltimore, the 49ers at certain points have had multiple or the most draft picks in these drafts. Regularly, the Patriots have some of the most amount of draft capital heading into a draft. And that's my point. Good teams that generally know what the hell they're doing and have good teams, go with this buckshot approach to grab players and grab guys who are going to make an impact. Bob Quinn, going into this year's draft, they have, 6 picks? Now it's down to 5. And one of those picks that you might lose is a 5th-round pick, a position that you and I both agree you need to get at least a rotational player out of that spot in the draft. 5th-round players should contribute, yes or no?
5th?
5th round.
If a 5th-round player contributes, that is a massive success.
Do we have conversations about this all the time? We both agree 1st and 2nd rounders should be starters, right?
Right.
3rd, 4th, 5th round should contribute, should be rotational players.
After you get out of the 3rd round, you're just hoping to find that. It's not this. If you don't find a starter in the 2nd round, you failed. If you don't find a contributor in the 5th round, you're one of many teams who didn't find a contributor in the 5th round. Are there contributors? Yes. Let's look at these good teams. I don't know what these guys are doing, but Cameron Smith was a 5th-round draft pick. Who the hell is this? Does he contribute for Minnesota? No. He had 8 tackles last year as a 5th-round draft pick for Minnesota. 2018, their 5th-round draft pick. They took a kicker in the 5th round. Is he even on a roster still? Stroz, I get what you're saying, but it's nitpicky as hell. Yes, you want to have a ton of draft picks. You absolutely still value draft picks at the back end of the draft. I'm not telling you I want to just willy-nilly throw around draft picks, but overwhelmingly 6th-round draft picks or 5th-round draft picks miss. And here's the thing. If it's a 5th-round draft pick, you made the playoffs. And I'm sorry, I can't complain if they make the playoffs. I understand you might think, and I don't even necessarily disagree with you, making the playoffs might not be the best thing for this organization, but you cannot complain about a coach and GM finding their way into the playoffs. You just can't. So if they end up giving a 5th-round draft pick, it means they had a successful season.
I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this. I mean, this is one of those things where I think giving up draft capital for a guy that you could have had is just a bonehead move. I get that they're in save their ass mode, right? I get it, but you could have had this guy. You didn't have to give anything up, and now because the season hasn't really gone the way that maybe you thought it was, maybe the players that you brought in just haven't really panned out. So now you got to go out and you got to give up draft capital. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? Because if you get in the playoffs, cool, your job is safe. And you did your job. At least for another year, you can come back and you can try to tinker with this mess and try to make it better. But I'm just, at this point, I'm just kind of over all of it. Also, some notable 5th-round draft picks for you. This is just from 2017.
Yeah, of course. I'm not denying the fact they exist. Give me the notable not draft picks who didn't do anything.
Kittle. Desmond King's an all right player. You also have Aaron Jones. That's just from 2017. Just FYI.
Okay, so 3? Go through that whole draft.
I mean, I want the whole draft. These are just names that are just standing out. So you want me to go through the whole 5th round of 2017?
Yeah, I do. I'm not denying the existence of good players in the 5th round.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Jake Butt, George Kittle, Jordan Morgan, Blair Brown,
who?
DeMonte Kazi,
who?
Jordan Leggett,
who?
Desmond King, Corn Elder. Yes, the great Corn Elder.
Okay, continue.
Jake Elliott, Jeremy Sprinkle, Jayon Brown, who? Brian Hill, Will Holden,
backup running back.
Nate Harrison.
Who?
Or Harrison. Jermaine, I can't even pronounce that last name. He's offensive tackle out of Texas A&M. Roderick Johnson.
Okay, we can stop.
Anthony Walker.
My point. I'm not denying.
I get what you're saying.
But the George Kittles.
But what I'm saying
is, hit rate in the 5th round has got to be below 20%.
Jamal Agnew. So Bob Quinn does some of his best work in the 5th round.
I'm not denying that you can find relevant players in the 5th round. But the point is, you're missing far more than not. Should you give up every 5th round pick every year for nothing? No. Is it okay to give it up to upgrade a pass rusher? Yes. And the fact that you count it as a 5th rounder is BS, because we both know damn well if it's a 5th rounder, it means they made the playoffs. Before we move on, and we're gonna talk about another Stroz wedding, apparently 2.0 here, or maybe
it's wedding season. Get your tux ready.
And we're also gonna get to Michigan football. Before we do, The Lions won. They're 3-3. We both know they have an easy schedule ahead. You didn't think they'd win. Are you in screw it, fuck it, I give up, I'm rooting for them mode yet?
No, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. What I will tell you is, so every week I got to make predictions for John's Sports Illustrated article, and the last 2 weeks I've predicted against the Lions. So I'm half tempted to predict for them, so that way they lose maybe. I don't know.
If they beat the Colts, which is the hardest game in their next 3.
Yeah.
And go to 4-3, will you root for them?
At that point, I think I have to, right?
So I think the Colts game is very much losable. If they win that game, then they play Washington and
That
Minnesota.
Should be a win. Yep. Back-to-back wins. So at that point, you should be 6-3?
And I expect heartbreak. But Stroz, 2 episodes ago, we were asking for heartbreak. I'm just telling you, it's hard not to find yourself there. All right, we can move forward. And again, we'll definitely revisit after the Colts game. If they lose to the Colts, you're in a weird as hell spot. I'm rooting because of that. I'm rooting for them to win because at this point, I think it's over. Coaches aren't getting fired. GM's not getting fired. I'm rooting for win so I can enjoy that heartbreak at the end of the season.
Dark days ahead, boys. Dark days ahead.
After the Colts game. Again, Stroz went to another wedding. This one sounds like it was more of a shit show, though.
It wasn't good. That's for sure. This is my 4th wedding this year.
Chill out. I've been like 4 weddings in my life.
Dude, it's crazy. And it's been back to back weddings too. So beginning of October I had a wedding, then I had my sister's on the 17th, and then on the 23rd I had a wedding. The wedding on the 23rd was for my buddy Mikey. Me and Mike have been friends for at least 17, maybe 18 or 19 years. We've been buddies. So extremely long time. Anyways, went to this wedding, and my ex-wife was invited to this wedding, which made it extremely awkward. For probably about 3, maybe 4 weeks before this wedding, my anxiety was at like an all-time high, right? We have talked about different situations with our mental health. I don't know if we really bring them up on the podcast all that much, but I go to a therapist. I usually go to a therapist just for my anger issues. It has really just kind of trickled into a lot of other things where I just it's good for my mental health just to kind of talk to somebody and get other people's opinions on different things.
I talk about it. I see a therapist as well. I think therapists are the best thing in the world. Life-changing.
For sure. So, and I've noticed a ton of growth with different things in my life. So they're fantastic, especially going through all the BS that I'm going through with my divorce. It really helped put a lot of different things in perspective and really kind of pointed to where I failed as a husband. Also kind of where our relationship broke down. So it's really, really good. And it's really, really insightful for myself. So I attend this wedding. Again, my anxiety just at an all-time high. My ex-wife is there. I walk in for the ceremony. She's already there. So I go and I end up sitting next to her, but I leave a seat between us. And I try to be as warm as possible, but it is so awkward. Have you ever had a friend where things just deteriorated and it became so bad and things were so awkward with you guys where conversation was extremely forced and you're just looking for things to talk about? So it's like, hey, the weather's cool, or hey, how's work? That's what this was. I tried to be as warm as possible. She was frigid. She was like an ice cube coming fresh out the freezer. It was brutal. This carries through dinner, which I'm sitting across from her at dinner, by the way. My buddy Matt is sitting next to her. And I think there's some...
I guess I'm a little... Like, why did you guys have to be so close constantly? Did you want to be...
No, I walked in and I seen her. She was supposed to have a bunch of, she said she had a bunch, and if you could see me, I've got finger quotes going, a bunch of things for me. I showed up and I was like, cool. I was like, so where's your car? Like, I didn't see your car. I didn't even know you were here. I was like, I kind of parked in a spot where you could park next to me so I can get all the things that you said you had for me. She was like, I got dropped off. I'll have to mail you your stuff. And I was like, what? What the shit? Like, she's been holding these belongings over my head now for, I don't know, 4 months now, 5 months. And I'm just like, I don't understand why you just can't give it to me. Or you could have just mailed it to me months ago when you said you had this stuff of mine. Like, obviously, I haven't missed it. It's been a year, so I obviously haven't missed it. So what the hell's going on here? Anyway, so I just kind of like sit down next to her and just kind of talk to her for a quick minute before the ceremony. Ceremony's kind of, we go to dinner, whatever. Sitting across from each other. So I think there's some gamesmanship going on here with her. So, which I guess kudos to her for playing the game, and me just being I don't know, I just wasn't there for it. I don't know. I was just trying to be as regular as possible. So like my buddy Matt's there, and Matt's a good looking dude. Like if there was a dude who you were like, yeah, maybe, it's Matt. Matt is that good looking of a guy. So anyways, Matt's sitting next to her. She starts rubbing on the back of Matt's head. And I'm just kind of like, that's awkward. My buddy Scott's there as well with his wife. And like at a certain point, he texted me. He was like, don't think I don't see what the hell's going on here. And that's not called for. And I was like, it's what it is, bro. It's what it is.
Why didn't Matt stop it?
Because Matt's kind of a dweeb. I don't know. Like he's weird. Like I love Matt, but he's Matt. I don't know. It's hard to explain. You know, you have a buddy and just the best way you can describe them is by their name. That's him. So it's what it is. Anyways, this goes on for a little bit. She then invited a girl who I looked at as like my 14-year-old niece, right? Like she's 14 now, but Luana I've known since she was pretty much a baby. And like we're really close friends with her mom, or we were really close. I was really close friends with her mom. Obviously, my ex-wife still very close friends with her mom. Anyways, basically, like if anything was to happen to her mom, this is how close. If anything was to happen to her mom, I was going to be a guardian to her daughter. All right. She ends up inviting her to this wedding after dinner, which I thought was tasteless for one, but two, she did it again for more gamesmanship because the girl, I said hi to her and I tried being friendly with her and she basically ignored me. And I was like, oh, okay. I see how this is going to go. So, all right, cool, whatever. I ended up hanging out. So dinner was at 7. Wedding started at 6. So from like 6 to basically 9:30. By the time 9 o'clock rolled around, I was like, hey guys, let's get a picture. And then I got to get out of here. Cause I'm not going to put myself in this situation anymore because I had to work the next day. So I couldn't just go drink and kind of like drink it all away. And it was just too awkward and it was awful. So that was pretty horrible. I ended up leaving early. I felt bad because, again, my buddy who I've been friends with for almost 20 years, I had to leave his wedding early. Another incident, I guess really and truly the topic of this segment should be like awkward run-ins you've had with past friends, girlfriends.
So I have one, and I don't know if I've shared it.
Okay, because I've got another one.
Have I ever shared the one about that happened at the Red Wings game?
I don't think so.
So here's the thing. To be honest, it wasn't an awkward run-in. It was a near awkward run-in. It was a very close call. So I used to work promotions, right, at a Detroit radio station, and I'd be at Red Wings games often. And I don't even know where to start with this damn story, man.
I like how you don't want to put any of those call letters out. You just kind of want to skirt around.
I don't need to share it. You know what? Let me step back. Okay, so the first girl that I legitimately dated was senior year of high school. Very fun, very short-lived, and went up in a ball of flames. It did not it was very just very high then very low. Well, I later went on to find out, and I didn't know this because I had a very big group of friends in high school. And I still talk to a lot of them. I wanted to find out that her cousin was a part of that group. I didn't find that out until after we were done. And then her cousin started showing up more and more in the group, and I ended up having a class with him in college. So I started talking to the guy. It's a little weird. I know damn well he doesn't know anything about me and her. Anyways, I'm working a Red Wings game one day, and I walk by and see him, and I'm just about to tap him on the shoulder and say hi when I realize he's with her. And thank God I stopped and looked away so he didn't catch me, because if he would have caught me, he would have stopped and talked too. And again, things kind of ended pretty explosive between us.
Yeah.
And he didn't know anything about us. So it wasn't actually an awkward encounter. She went to the same college as me, so we actually a couple times had some weird run-ins there. I sat 2 seats over from her at the financial aid office. Didn't say a word to her the whole time. Neither of us said a word to each other.
You didn't wave or anything? Hey,
nah,
how you doing?
Nah.
How does it this is high school, right?
Well, so
how does this end so badly? You want to give a little bit or no, not at all?
So, you're going to freaking die. I don't even know if you're going to have time to share your story.
That's fine.
I don't know if I told you
whatever.
this or not. So, man, I hope I've never shared this on here before. So, she had a boyfriend.
Okay.
While we were dating.
You didn't know about him?
I did know about him.
You did?
But hear me out, and you're gonna believe me. I hope our listeners believe.
Well, look, I'm not gonna judge you.
No. You're gonna believe what I'm about to say. I don't know if our listeners will. I was so innocent at that point in my life. I didn't realize she was cheating on her boyfriend with me till 2 years later. I was telling somebody a story about the first girl I dated. And while I was telling him about it, I went, oh my God, she was cheating on him. Because the thing was.
With me.
The thing was, like, she despised him and, like, wanted nothing to do with him, but they had been together for so long. It was like she was going to leave him eventually. That was the whole time. And the reason things blew up were because she was like, I think basically what happened is she realized she was cheating on him. Because, like, everything was so innocent early on. And, like, as things started to progress, that's when things blew up.
B, you are such a good guy. Like, how are you this good and how are you this single? Jeez Louise, man. For real. Like, hold on. You were basically this chick's side piece and you didn't even know.
Nah.
It took you 2 years to figure it out.
Can I at least argue that, like, while I was the side piece for those few months, I think I was the more important relationship?
Well, I mean, usually that's kind of how it works out when you're the side piece.
Now, that being said, I know for a fact she's married now. I really wish I knew if it was him. Like, not that it wouldn't make a difference. I just want to know if, like, that whole thing happened and then she ended up marrying.
You can't go on her face. You can't go on Facebook and find her.
I never met him.
Oh,
I don't know what he looks like.
Oh. So here, hey, so I got a story like that too. I mean, this is I love when our topics just go sideways. So I was working at a restaurant and there was this chick that I used to fool around with that was working there too. This is going to make me sound like a total scumbag, but this is the difference between you and me, which makes this podcast wonderful.
You knew damn well what you were doing.
Yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing. Anyways, her boyfriend was in the Army, and I was like, yeah, whatever you want to do, come through. Sure thing. I used to run through that on the regular. And, yeah, they're married now, and they've got 2 kids. We're Facebook friends. You know, it's what it is.
Like, at least mine was high school. Like, I don't know.
Oh, no, mine was post. Like, I could go get booze and stuff.
I didn't have to ask.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes it a little bit different. Like, it was the whole thing lasted like 3 or 4 months. So
it's totally different, but this is why you're such a better guy than me. Like, I'm a dirtbag and you are not. It's great. How the hell are we friends, B? This is fantastic. I'm a scumbag.
I don't really think I have anything else. So that relationship is what I consider to be like my first real relationship. I was like, I dated.
He was the side piece for his first real relationship.
Well, so like the first girl that I was like officially boyfriend and girlfriend with, we dated on and off 3 times, I believe we were together. And every single time she would hang out until we were like together, and then she'd always be too busy. In fact, we dated 3 different times for probably a total of, I don't know, 3 months. And I saw her once in person those 3 months. Because that's just what happened. Like that was before the senior year of high school. But so I got nothing against her. Me and her were really good friends growing up, and then that was kind of what happened. But before I came here, she was really good friends with another, like very, very close friends with one of my close friends. And I was going to hang out with that friend before I moved to Houston. And she was like, hey, like, you know, your ex is here. I was like, whatever. That was from, you know, sophomore year of high school. It was weird, but not awkward. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just weird to like know that was somebody who like I kind of dated a little bit, but it was never like, I don't know. It wasn't uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
It was just like, this is a weird thing to be doing, but it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. But my other story really quick. So one of the guys who was the best man at my wedding, we had been friends for at least 10 years. I don't know what happened. Something happened where he ended up getting really upset at me about something. I still don't know what it was to this day. We have another friend that I introduced him to, and he would go back to him and he would talk all kinds of shit about me. And then my buddy would come back to me and be like, I don't know what his problem is. You should maybe reach out to him and try talking to him. So I would try talking to him. No, man, nothing's wrong. So then it got around to me that he was talking a bunch of shit about me to a bunch of other friends of ours. So I said, all right, cool. I mean, if that's the way it's going to be and you're going to blame me for things that I have nothing to do with, which at the time was going to the one buddy who he would run back to and talk to about me. It was his wedding. We were going to Jamaica. And he was like, I'm not going if Adam's going. Well, and his friend since third grade, so I don't know what you want here. Anyways, that's why you're not going. You're an idiot. So he was telling other people that. So once I found that out, I was like, all right, cool. We're good. Like, I don't need to be friends with you. And he would run back and talk shit. He talked shit about me to my dad, which was really messed up. So I was just kind of like, all right, we're good. And I just kind of like blocked his phone number and I just cut him out of my life. Probably a year, maybe 2 years later, I seen him at a bar in my neighborhood. And I seen his wife. I seen his wife first. I went over and started talking to her. I was like, oh, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in forever. She's like, oh, we're great. This, that, the other thing. And then I seen him and I was like, hey, man, what's going on? And I went to go give him a little bit of love, little high five, little daps, what's going on? And he just kind of acted like he didn't even know who I was. And I was like, oh, it's like that. We'll
a story where Stroz is the bigger man the whole way through.
The whole way through. Yeah. It happens now and again, but it's very rare. So yeah, that was awkward too. Awkward moments. Let us know if you have any awkward moments. At Adam R STROZ, at Brendan _Riley, or no, Brendan Riley _. Yeah, I'll figure it out one time. We're only 42 episodes in. I'll get it figured out. Don't worry.
All right, so we got to get into Michigan football. I don't even know where to start. There's a few questions I want to ask you. I guess number one is where are you at after the way they beat Minnesota? Because I know you're a skeptical Michigan fan too.
Super skeptical. So this is what I'll say. Okay, I thought it was a good win against a good team. I think there's a lot of hype coming out of this game, whether you hear it from Joel Klatt or you hear it from other people in the area or people in the newspaper or you're watching ESPN. There's a lot of hype coming out of this one win, which is always scary to me. But I think it was a good win against a good team, and this is why. Your special teams failed you on multiple occasions. Your defense, something that was your calling card, didn't look great, didn't look special. Looked average to maybe slightly above average. You won this game on the road against what I want to say is going to be a good Minnesota team or against a...
And that's the question, right?
Right.
How good is Minnesota going to be?
We don't know. But you went on the road, and look, PJ Fleck, I think, is a hell of a coach. I think he's a fantastic coach. The one thing I can say definitively is he's a very good head coach. You went on the road and you beat a good coach in PJ Fleck, and you did it with your offense, and you showed different stuff with your offense. And what I mean by different stuff is you have a quarterback who he's a big dude. He's got a cannon for an arm, and you worked in some spread option stuff. You ran in a little bit of the run pass option. You did a lot of power running, which is something was Michigan's calling card. It was almost a callback to that. You did a couple things downfield with your wide receivers. There was a lot of good things to take out of what that offense did. Do I think it was flawless? No, by no means. Do I think there are things that can be sharpened up? Absolutely. But this was your first game. Usually your first game, you usually play a Sisters of the Poor team. You usually beat up on somebody small, and that way you sharpen your teeth against them. So that way when you take on Big Ten competition, you don't come out and you don't look like an idiot. I thought what I seen against the talent that I seen it against, I think it points in the direction that if you are a Michigan fan, it's okay to be excited. All right? But I'm going to tell you right now.
It's okay to be excited.
It's okay to be excited. But don't put any cards before any horses, all right? I don't know if this team's good enough to beat Ohio State. I think it might be good enough to maybe compete with them for 2 quarters, 3 quarters.
Is it good enough to get there undefeated?
I think so, because what I seen from a team like Penn State lost to Indiana, and Penn State looks very, very beatable. I think Wisconsin played a game where
Wisconsin be able to play.
Well, that's the thing, right? Coronavirus.
It's a real question.
So Penn State's quarterback looked unstoppable in that game. So maybe he was flying high off the coronavirus. I'm not really sure. Gave him Superman powers, but Wisconsin looks like the one team that could be a little bit of a stumbling block for this team. I mean, we've got Michigan State this week. Michigan versus Michigan State. That's going on Saturday. Michigan State looks so beat up.
If that is a game, it's got to make you skeptical about Michigan. Michigan State looked so bad, and I had on the background
to Rutgers
a lot of the day, but it was just turnover.
Yeah.
See, I'm naturally skeptical of Michigan because I my whole life they've been the same team. They're the team that can beat, at their peak, they can beat some good teams, but they're never going to be great teams. That being said, to see them, and honestly, take the road part of it out of it because there weren't fans there. To see Michigan beat up on a ranked team is just not something I've seen very often. I'm going to be so interested to see what Joe Milton is because you said it to me. You've seen a lot of September Heismans at Michigan, and I have too. The one thing is, it felt like he played very within himself. He's not super accurate, but he's very athletic. He's going to beat you with his feet. And he's going to take the safe passes because he knows he's not the most accurate guy in the world. And so the one thing that I loved is sometimes when you get guys like that who aren't the most accurate but can run, sometimes they're itching to leave the pocket. This man he had one early on where he left too early. But I thought most of the game he did a good job staying in a clean pocket, taking the easy throws. He's got the cannon to throw the deep ball, but I think if he's willing to play it safe, and there's a lot of speed on this offense, he's not an NFL quarterback by any means, but I think somebody who can beat you with his feet while playing the game manager role as a passer can be very dangerous at the college level. And it's that's one thing I hate about college football is like, what the hell is Minnesota? I don't know. I happen to believe that PJ Fleck's really damn good too. I happen to think Minnesota is going to be a legitimate. Maybe power is a strong word, but I don't necessarily believe Minnesota can't be what Wisconsin is in the Big Ten. They're not Ohio State. They're not what Michigan State was in the middle years of D'Antonio or the early years of D'Antonio. But I think they can be this like a tier 2 Big Ten team. I do. And so naturally, when you win like that against them, it opens your eyes. It makes you say, I think the question is, can you get to Ohio State undefeated? I'm part of the camp that says, if you can't beat Ohio State, you can't beat Ohio State. Like, I'm not saying that should be acceptable. I don't know what Ryan Day is yet, but while Urban was there, I just have a hard time having a problem with not beating Urban. But I would have never picked them to get to Ohio State undefeated. I still don't know if I would now. But what I watched on Saturday makes me willing to believe it can happen.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key phrase right there. You're willing to believe that it can happen because you've seen so much good stuff. Now, if that defense can sharpen up a little bit and, generally as the season progresses, barring injuries, teams usually get better. So I need to see a little bit more out of that defense.
They were dominant up front at first. Mm-hmm. They lost it as the game went on, but they were so dominant up front in the first half.
I need to see a little bit more from this offense, and I need to see more from this defense to really buy in. But like you said, it is one of those things where you can start to believe in. Look, I don't want to hear about how Joe Milton's going to be the second coming of Christ as a quarterback. I don't want to hear about how he should be in the Heisman talk. I don't want to hear any of that stuff because I've seen it too many times. What I will tell you is he has a physicality about him. He has the body structure of what you want to see from a guy who's going to make it to that next level. And he's got a rifle for an arm. You're right. The accuracy really isn't there, but he can throw it down the field, and the guy can run, and he can take a hit. This is something that Christian McCaffrey couldn't do. It seemed like every time McCaffrey got hit, he was a superb athlete, but every time he got hit, he was broken. Whether it be a collarbone, whether it be a shoulder, an arm, it was an ankle, whatever. He was.
It makes him a red
injured.
zone threat too, which is a big deal.
Absolutely. The one thing I did like about that game, it was Ben Mason. Ben Mason was a savage animal in this game. His first penalty, I thought it was a bad penalty, but I liked that he was out there trying to set a tone. He was letting everybody know, and not so much on Minnesota's team, but on Michigan's team. Like, look, we're not going to get pushed around. We're not going to be bullied. I liked it. It was a bad penalty, and it moved you back 15 yards.
I don't remember who the team was on that call.
But I liked it.
Who was it on color? Was that? It was a big name, but I can't remember.
It was Herb Street.
Was it Herb Street?
Herb Street, yeah. Herb Street.
He said he liked it, and I was like, oh, shut up. You can't like a 15-yard. You're wrong.
I didn't like it was 15 yards.
You're wrong.
But I like the aggressiveness of it, I like seeing that type of play. Like, that guy is an animal.
He is.
Absolute animal.
He is. I agree with that. He was – the offense was the most fun I can remember a Michigan offense being in a long time against a team that you think is good. We'll wait and see. Michigan better blow the doors off against Michigan State.
How many touchdowns do you think this game? How many touchdown lead do you think Michigan ends up with at the very end?
They should win by at least 5 touchdowns.
That's what I think too. I think this should be a 35-point lead.
I don't think the spread's quite that big. 24.
I was gonna say I thought it was close to 4 touchdowns, but yeah,
but
24.
I think it should be 35. I mean, it's hard to complain if you win by 4. Again, we'll reevaluate this too. It's going to be a lot of football talk the next few weeks, but I wanted to get into that. Stroz, I'm sorry, but the Lions are probably going to win this week, and you're going to have to root for them starting next week. We'll touch back in on that. Hopefully, no more weddings. No more
weddings. No more weddings right now. We're done.
Is officially over. So if you're getting married in the next few weeks, sorry, Stroz won't be there.
I won't be there.